Okay. As usual, as we start, a little bit of recap of what we know so far, so that we get to understand what type of problems or numericals we'll get and how to attack those problems in chemical calculation. So some basic things which you should know, that the basic formula of number of moles, this you can't forget. Number of moles will always be equal to given mass, whatever mass is given to you, divided by molecular mass. Molecular mass, or the other word for this is molar mass. Okay, the other word for this is molar mass. The next question comes, sir, where do I get the molar mass from? This data will be fed to you from, either it will be given in the question or the periodic table will feed you this data. And remember that you take only the whole number figure, means carbon, you need not take 11.99 something, you'll take 12. Understood? Oxygen is not 1.008, you will take 1. Is this much understood? Number of moles. Number of moles is always given mass divided. So in notation, we usually write number of moles as N, given mass as M, whatever is the given mass, and molecular mass is Mr, whatever is the molecular mass that we'll try to find out. Is this part okay? Okay. Next part is what type of problems we get. We usually get two type of problems. This will be a typical two type of problems. One type of problem would be how much of something is reacting with how much of something, right? How much of something reacts with how much of something. So in these type of problems, what you should know to solve this problem is you should know the balanced chemical equation. Now question comes, sir, will we be given this? If it is a tough equation, you may be given. If they are simple ones, you should know. But they will narrate the equation to you. Like so-and-so reacts with so-and-so to form so-and-so. So you should be able to construct the balanced chemical equation. This will be required. Now, when we look at balanced chemical equation, these type of problems are the one where we have to find quantity of either one reactant or one product. Find the quantity of either one of the reactant or the product. The balanced chemical equation should be known to you. Either you should be able to construct it or it should be given. ये चाहिए, इसके बिना हम नहीं कर सकते. ठीक है? Now let's understand one common example out here. Let's say C plus O2 gives me CO2. Do you understand? Now how to read this equation? You should also know how to read the equation. The equation is read like this. 1 mole of carbon atoms react with 1 mole of oxygen molecules to form 1 mole of carbon dioxide molecules. This is how you read it. Now let's say, what is the matching contribution out here? 1 pairs with 1. Understood? Now say suppose you have got 250 grams of carbon. Say just for example, 250 grams of carbon, and or say not 250 grams of carbon. Let's say whatever grams of carbon we have, we convert it into moles, and we find that we have got say 2 moles of carbon, for example, and you have got oxygen 3 moles. Let's say, for example, you have got 2 moles and you have got oxygen 3 moles. Start thinking, who is the limiting reactant? Okay, who is the limiting reactant? So this fellow in chemistry will be known as limiting reactant. Limiting reactant, the one which is less in quantity. What is the use of limiting reactant? Limiting reactant will decide how much of the other fellow you will be combining with. Yes or no? Just understand what is the basic equation. 1 matches with 1. So if you are having 3, you need 3 this side also. वो तो possible नहीं है. You don't have 3 carbon. So, but if you have 2 here, you can get 2 from here. Are you understanding? So it's just like the example that I gave the other day. Like say suppose you have only 1 spoon of tea leaves at your home. You have 1 spoon of tea leaves, but you are the owner of a milk store. But you can't make so many cups of tea. You can make only 1 cup of tea because you have only 1 teaspoon of tea leaves with you. So here one of the questions that we might get also is, how much of oxygen remains unreacted? That also as a question we might get, because oxygen completely will not react. Are we understanding this question? So asset type, we'll do all these type of questions. So in these type of questions, they might ask you how much of carbon dioxide will be formed, or how much of carbon will be formed, or how much of this will be left over. ऐसे questions करने के लिए बैलेंस केमिकल इक्वेशन का नॉलेज रहना बहुत जरूरी है, इसके बिना आप आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते. क्लियर हो गया? Type 2 problems. Type 2 are the problems where you have to predict either A, the empirical formula, or B, you have to predict what is known as the molecular formula. Okay, now ask yourself a question. Sir, for these type of questions, do we need to know the chemical equation? I would say you are asking an absolute foolish question. If you know the chemical equation, you already know the formula. Are you understanding it, Kirtan? In these questions, you might ask, sir, do we need to know the balanced chemical equation? Then it's an idiotic question. Why? If you know the balanced equation, then you know the formulas, na? Then what are you going to find out? यहाँ तो हम formulas ही लिखते हैं, तो ये नहीं रहता है. यहाँ पे हमें क्या दिया रहेगा? Here what you will get, here you will be given exact experiment figures. Means they will tell you how much reacted with how much. Exact figures they will give you, and based on this exact figures you have to come back to the empirical formula or the molecular formula. We'll see those problems, right? In both these questions, to solve both these questions beta, this formula is mandatory. इसके बिना आप आगे नहीं बढ़ पाओगे, इसलिए get this down your throat. इसके बिना हम आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते. ये वाला formula, ये तो चाहिए. Clear हुआ? And also please understand, some questions they might further complicate you, asking how much of carbon, how many atoms. How many means you have to multiply the mole with 6.022, because we are going to answer everything in mole, and 1 mole is how much? 6.02 into 10 to the power 23. A third kind of problem, which I would say is a 2 extension. These will be problems based on yield. Yield is something like, say suppose you have a plot of a given size, and there you can grow how many? 100 flower saplings. Is it necessary that all the 100 saplings will bloom flowers? No, not necessary. So yield is the practical thing, where they'll tell you that the yield, practical yield. So like for example, what is this equation showing you? 1 mole of carbon exactly gives you 1 mole of carbon dioxide. But do you get pure carbon? No. You will get carbon which will be near to pure. So they will tell you the yield of this carbon is 95%. That means every mole of carbon that you are burning, you are expected to get 0.95 mole of carbon dioxide. Are you understanding? That's called the yield factor. This is theory. ऐसा life में नहीं होता है. If I feed you 5 chapatis, you don't work for 5 chapatis. You'll be working something less than that. Yes or no? So we'll get problems on yield also. So quick revision, what all problems we'll get? We'll get a problem where we have to identify. This type of problem you did in last class. That magnesium oxide wala type problem. Just check, we did that problem, 0.24 of magnesium oxide, how much of magnesium will be formed. We did this problem last class. Okay, we'll do some more problems, don't worry. And then we will be focusing, but more important are these type of problems. This one. We did this problem in last class. Yeah, 0.24 magnesium oxide. I remember it. I'll remind you. Look, I told you that this data which was given was not necessary. You can write the reaction. Do you remember? So if your reaction equation writing is strong, then you can already decode it. So this type of problem we have done. Are we ready to go ahead now? Let's get ready to go with problems. The more problems we'll do, अपने आप clear होता जाएगा. ठीक है? चलिए. Let's start our problems. Initially, there will be some warmer or loosener types, and then we go exactly solving or predicting formulas and molecular formula. Acha, children, one more thing that we will need. Do you know the relation between empirical formula and molecular formula? Empirical formula and molecular formula will always have a multiplying factor. Empirical formula is actually the formula in the lowest ratio, and molecular formula is the formula, actual formula. So if you divide the molecular mass by the empirical mass, you will get a constant figure, which is called n, the multiplying factor. Unless and until we have the multiplying, see, our way of solving will always give you empirical formula. You cannot get molecular formula. So if the question further gives me n, then I can find what is the molecular formula. Otherwise we will always halt at empirical formula. ठीक है? So n is the multiplying factor. Did you understand? Like MgO, the formula will come something like say Mg2O2 empirical. So suppose there is a compound like say C2H6. So we will arrive something at not C2H6, we will arrive at CH3 करके आ जाएंगे हम लोग. फिर हमें मल्टीप्लाइंग फैक्टर देगा 2, तो हम उसके आगे जा सकते हैं. That we will see when the problems come. Are we ready? चले? Okay. So do you understand what is molar mass? Molar mass and molecular mass is same. Mass of 1 mole. Where do you get this figure? Periodic table. अब periodic tables ready है कि नहीं? All your periodic tables are ready with you. Okay. So you'll need them. चलो करते हैं. So, and you should also know formulas of compounds. You should also know formulas of compound. The first question, let's concentrate here. Let's take a compound called sodium hydroxide. Okay, anyone, can you tell me what all things do you know about sodium hydroxide? So we will also revise in this section as we cover up compounds, we will revise about them. What is sodium hydroxide? King of base. It is one of the strongest base. Formula is what? NaOH. ठीक है ना? This is a, ये सब अभी बार-बार लिखा रहा हूँ. This is nothing relevant with this chapter, but you should know this is base, also known as king of base. If you want to love chemistry, this is also known as caustic soda. Okay. Formula will be NaOH. Any other use you know about sodium hydroxide? I've told many times. Chimney baffles, which are all oily, the kitchen chimney baffles. See, read. Kitchen chimney baffles, you know. Have you seen the chimney of your kitchen or not? If you look below the chimney, you will see there are baffles, the perforated trays. They are highly oily by the type of Indian cooking that we have. If you want to clean that, how do you clean it? You can't clean it with prill and all these things. The way to clean it is take caustic soda, put it in a tub, and submerge those baffles and watch your favorite TV program. After half an hour, the baffle will come out without it. This is a degreasing agent. Very, very effective. Anything oily that you want to clean. ये सब लिखते जाइए ताकि आपका knowledge बढ़े. ठीक है? So our first question is, we have a sample of 60 grams sodium hydroxide. We need to say that this sample of 60 grams of sodium hydroxide is how many moles of sodium hydroxide, right? How many moles of sodium hydroxide? So we put it in our formula that we have been asked for what beta? We have been asked for number of moles. है ना? Number of moles is always what? Given mass divided by molar mass. Molar mass. So what is the given mass? 60 grams. And molar mass is always expressed in gram per mole. So let's see how much is the molar mass. Sodium 11 means this is 23 plus oxygen. O, oxygen is 16, H is 1. So many grams per mole. Ultimately gram will cancel gram and we will get our answer in mole. Can you solve this easily, quickly? How much has it come out? 1.5? Is it? 60 divided by how much? 40. So this becomes 1.5 moles. So 60 grams of sodium hydroxide is 1.5 moles. Easy है, समझ में आया? ठीक है? ऐसे क्वेश्चन कभी कभी 1 मार्क दे देता है आप. चलें अगले वाला करते हैं. सारे बुक्स के प्रॉब्लम करेंगे, डोंट वरी. ओके. Now, can I rub this? Can I rub this? Chalo. Okay. Our next compound, whenever I'm writing compound, I will write some bit of information with it. Our next question is about something called copper sulfate. Copper sulfate. And this copper sulfate has an adjective attached to it called hydrated copper sulfate. Hydrated copper sulfate. पहले compound के बारे में लिखते हैं. Hydrated copper sulfate means it contains water of crystallization. water of crystallization. That means this will always be in the form of crystal, and whenever you have a hydrated salt, it will always be colored, and the color of copper sulfate is blue, also known as blue vitriol. All these are for your general knowledge, higher studies, whatever you want to know. Copper sulfate, if you write copper sulfate, it does not have a color. Do you understand? Copper sulfate is exactly my t-shirt color, blue. But this is hydrated copper sulfate. Hydrated salts are always colored. Whenever you see hydrated, that means they will be colored. All hydrated salts are colored. ठीक है? Copper sulfate ऐसे बोलोगे तो white है. Hydrated बोलेंगे तो what will be the color of copper sulfate? Blue, also known as blue vitriol. So we should know the formula of copper sulfate. So usually copper sulfate is CuSO4, but this contains water of crystallization, means with CuSO4, certain water molecules will also be attached to it. How many? For CuSO4, it is dot 5H2O. So children, tell me, how do I read it? Every mole of CuSO4 has 5 moles of water molecule attached to it. One molecule has 5 molecules. Do you understand? I am one molecule copper sulfate. How many water surrounds me? 5. So if I'm 1 mole, 5 moles. समझ में आया? This is the basic about copper sulfate. ये portion बहुत important है. Problem कोई भी बच्चा कर देगा because it's only about formula. पर अगर आपको ये decode करना नहीं आया, you're gone. Right? So our question is, what is the mass? You need to find out. You are given 0.5 moles of CuSO4.5H2O. You need to tell me what is the mass of this. What is the mass of this? So we go back to our formula, right? Right? So now we have to find out what is given mass. So tell me, beta, what is given mass equal to? Number of moles into molar mass, or sometimes we also say molecular mass, whatever it is, okay? Or so we'll use the word molecular mass, because now we won't say molar mass because it's actually hydrated thing. So given mass, number of moles is how many? 0.5. 0.5 can be written as half. Now start calculating the molecular mass. How much is the molecular mass? Chalo, copper. Copper is 28. माने 56 होगा copper. देखो. You're allowed to watch, but take the full number. Copper should be 56, right? 64. Sorry, 28. Na. So 64. So copper is 64. Cus, sulfur is 32. O4 means 16 into 4. करो, कितना हो जाएगा? 64 को हाफ करेंगे तो 32. 32 को हाफ करेंगे तो कितना हो जाएगा बेटा? 16. And 8 into 2, that is equal to another 16. This is 16 4, 64. So 16 4s are 64, 32. Yeah, sorry. Got it? So this should be how many grams? 32, 64, 74. I think it should be 80 grams. If I'm not wrong, you can check. Is it 80? Something galat hua hai. Oh, this is CuSO4. What did I go? What wrong happened? You have not added the 5H2O. So 5H2O means hydrogen is 1 into 2 plus oxygen is 16. This is half mole of copper sulfate crystal. Okay. So how much did this thing come out to? This thing came out to 32 plus 16 plus 32 plus 18. 18 if we divide by 2 is 9, and 9 into 5 is 45. So this should be 64, 80. 80 plus 45, which should be equal to 125 grams. Now we are correct. See, the mistake mat karna. Anything that's troubling you, bolo, I'll help you. You are free to use the calculator, not an issue. This part is CuSO4. इधर देखो. This is 5H2O. तो इसको हाफ से करेंगे ना, तो मैंने 64 का हाफ किया 2, 32 का हाफ किया 16, 16 4 जा 64 का हाफ 32, और ये कितना होता है 18, 18 का हाफ करेंगे तो 9, 9 into 5 is 45. आप कैलकुलेटर यूज कर लो अगर आपको ये सिंप्लीफिकेशन हार्ड लग रहा है तो. We are habituated to without using calculator ना. Did you understand this one? Yeah, Ashmita, बोलो बेटू. एक मिनट. आपको ये फॉर्मूला समझ में आया? एक एक करके जाएंगे. So given mass is number of moles. Number of mole is given to you as 0.5. 0.5 को मैंने हाफ करके लिखा. आप 0.5 ही लिखिए, कोई बात नहीं, आपको तो कैलकुलेटर यूज है. Now we have to find out the molecular mass of not copper sulfate. Yeah. Hydrated copper sulfate. तो हाइड्रेटेड कॉपर सल्फेट देखो मैं रेड से लिख रहा हूं बेटा. ये है Cu, ये है S, ये है O और ये है उसका 4. समझ में आया? Yes. उसके साथ क्या है? 5, ये है H, ये है O और ये है उसका 2. मतलब ये ऐसे लिखना चाहिए था मुझे. I should have written this as 16 into 2, then it is H O. यहाँ पे गड़बड़ी हो गया है. 1 into 2 plus 16. Sorry. So I'll tell you where is my mistake. It's small, my mistake, beta. So okay, so this will be 5 into 1 into 2 plus 16. So 2 it comes out how much now? So we have what do you call 16 divided by 2 is 8. 8 5s are 40. 40 plus 2, it should give me 42. How much did you get here? This is 18. 16 5 is 80. 85 90. 45 ही आएगा. ठीक है, करेक्ट है. 2 यहां से भी तो जाएगा और 2 यहां से भी जाएगा. 45. Water is 18. This is H2O. How much is the molecule of water? 18. 18 into 5 is 90. 90 divided by 2 is 45. You use calculator. That's not an issue. Okay. As long as ठीक है. हाँ ठीक है. Are we fine? Everyone understood this? So you have got two type of practice under your belt now. You actually did moles to mass, mass to moles. और mass to moles में आपने थोड़ा सा complicated वाला ही कर लिया जिसमें water of crystallization is included. Now do you know how to handle water of crystallization? हाँ. Had that water of crystallization not been there, so एक और salt लेके रख लो, लिख के रख लो, sodium carbonate. Keep another, ये भी बड़ा common रहता है, sodium carbonate. हाँ, not NaCO3, Na2CO3. Na2CO3 dot 10H2O. This is known as washing soda. And if you only are given Na2CO3, if you are given only Na2CO3, then it is known as soda ash. The name of this is soda ash. Water means, is it crystal? Crystal. But ironically, this one is white color salt. Okay, don't expect color out here. Washing soda is white in color. Baking soda is also white in color. चले आगे चले. This is just for your knowledge. Magnesium sulfate will be hydrated as 7H2O. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं और लेते हैं actual type of problems. Okay, तब तक आप लोग एक प्रॉब्लम कीजिए बेटा. 0.25 mole. The question is, don't look at the book, huh? The question is 0.25 mole H2O. So you have a sample. What is your sample? 0.25 mole of this sample, and they have told you that the mass of this is 4.5 grams. These are all actual, Ratnadeep type grams. 4.5 grams. So you are asked to find the molar mass of water. What is the molar mass of water? 18. So just check whether it will be 18 or not. You have to find out molar mass. तो मोलर मास का फॉर्मूला क्या होता है? सी ऐसे याद रखो, नंबर ऑफ व्हाट यू कॉल द नंबर ऑफ मोल्स is always equal to given mass over molar mass, number of moles, or you can also write, yeah, or we can write like this: number of moles is always given mass by molar mass. तो आप भी ऐसे number of moles बोलने से इसको ढक लो, given mass by molar mass. Given mass is number of moles into molar mass. ठीक है, ऐसे भी कर सकते हैं triangle बना के. So did you get 18 or not in this case? Right? So what do we have to do? We are given 0.25 and we have to equate it to how much? The given mass is 4.5 divided by x. So x should be equal to 0.25 4, which is the answer that you should get. ये समझ में आया? You can do this also. Right? Shall we go to the next one? क्या आहिरी? Who is chatting with you? अच्छा, no one is chatting. अच्छा, no WhatsApp. Good. Very good. चलो next. How many moles are there in 12.7 gram of aluminium oxide? Okay. Aluminium oxide. Do you know the formula of aluminium oxide or not? Hold on. Don't be a aluminium oxide का formula जानते हैं? इधर देखो, मैं हूं आपको बताने के लिए. आप भूल गए हो, मान लो. Confusion है कि नहीं? बोलो. Confusion है ना? So how to get aluminium oxide? Aluminium group कितने में है? Group 3. Aluminium group 3 में means aluminium का balance कितना है? 3. Oxygen is in which group? 6. 6 means balance is how much? 2. Minus 2. 2 अभी इसमें minus plus है तो ले लो ना. Al2O3. Why did you read this topic? You should read this topic so that you are able to generate it. Right. So we have aluminium oxide and we have 12.7 grams aluminium oxide, Al2O3. Children, also have a look at the significant figures whenever you are seeing a numerical. Try to report your answer also in the same. कितने significant figure है इसमें? 3. Okay. So they are saying how many moles are there in 12.7? कितने moles है? So moles is always given mass by molecular mass. Aluminium देखो, chart देखो. You need help? Aluminium is 27. 27. Understand? Kirtan, able to follow? Right. चलो करो. How much did you get? All of you should get the same answer. 3 significant figures में check करो बच्चा. What is the molar mass of aluminium oxide you got? What is the molar mass? Find out. Come on, Nidhi, you can't be quiet in this class. What is the molar mass of aluminium oxide? 27 multiplied by 2 plus 16 multiplied by 3. How much is it? Kitna aaya? How much? 0.1. No, how much is this? It can be 37. How much is this? All of you have got, have you all got this or not? How much? 102. And what is your given mass? How much? 12.7. So it should be 12.7 divided by 102. What is the figure? 0.3 significant figures. So 0.125. All of you got 0.125? Bacha log? Yeah. Sasra, your face is a little bit potatoish. So did you get the answer or not? Yeah. Do not proceed unless and until you got the answer. Let's all be satisfied and then we'll go. Chale bacha aage. So now tell me, are you confident to find out mass to moles, moles to mass? So what all the things that you need? You need chemical formula knowledge. You need water of crystallization knowledge. And 2 of the salts I have told you how much is the water of crystallization. Okay? Clear? Now we'll go for empirical formula type problems. Okay? We will try to find out what is the empirical or what is the molecular formula, depending on what type of question we are getting. We'll see that. Always you will first get this this multiplied by n. N is something but a multiplying factor. Multiplying factor. That will give you this particular item. And what is the multiplying factor? The multiplying factor is always molar mass divided by empirical mass. Molar mass divided by empirical mass. This will be given to you. In case anyone is asking you to find out this, then this will be given. Otherwise, your problem stops here itself. जरा इधर भी देखिएगा जो मैं बोल रहा हूं. Your problem stops here itself. If they ask you to find this, then they will give you what is the molar mass. Sir, how will we find the empirical mass? That is what you will first find out the empirical formula. Then you can calculate empirical mass. Yes or no? If you know the empirical formula, you know the empirical mass also. So shall we do our problem? Okay. What did I tell you at the start? These type of problems, we are not supposed to know the reaction equation. Because if you know the equation, what is the fun of finding out the molecular formula? Do you agree or not? Right? So what we will be given in this type of problems, experimental data, real life lab experimental data. So let's take one lab experimental data. It will be the same thing that we'll go for. Now, when the experimental data will be given to you, you'll be given what? Experimental data. So in the experimental data, you would be given what are the mass of reactants that you reacted, what are the mass of reactants you reacted, what was the mass of the product that you got. This is one way that the experimental data might be given to you. And if your bad luck is bad, which will be bad, they will give you the percentage data. They'll not give you these data in grams and something. They'll give you percentage data. Understood? If you are given percentage data, you will assume 100-gram sample. So they will say a compound which contains 20% magnesium, that means 100 grams of that compound will have 20 grams of magnesium. Have you understood? Ultimately हमको तो ग्राम चाहिए बेटा, ग्राम नहीं चाहिए, नहीं मिलेगा तो मोल्स कैसे निकालेंगे? पूरा कहानी तो मास के ऊपर है. मास दे दिया, वेरी गुड. मास नहीं दिया, परसेंटेज देगा. परसेंटेज देगा तो मास से I tell you, in 1 cube of kalakan that we eat, right, the mass of sugar is blah blah, the mass of cottage cheese is blah blah. Got it? I can also say a sample of kalakan contains how much? 20% sugar. So what will I say? Let the kalakan sample be 100 grams. 20 grams is sugar. So cottage cheese is how much? 80 grams. And we go by that. ठीक है ना? समझ में आया? चलें अभी एक डेटा का प्रॉब्लम करते हैं. So we say that there is a compound. This is our first data, and you have done this problem before. You're just doing it with a different taste. We have some experimental data in which we found that 0.24 grams of magnesium reacted, we will use the word reacted completely, ऐसा language लिखा रहेगा, reacted completely with 0.16 gram oxygen. Reacted completely with 0.16 gram oxygen. Don't write O. These are lab data. Magnesium is present as what beta? Atomic form, magnesium. Oxygen is present in molecular form. This reacted with this. Predict the empirical formula of the compound. Predict the empirical formula of the compound. ठीक है? ये 4 स्टेप में ये प्रॉब्लम होता है. Are we ready? Ready? Okay. So first step you will write, you make a column like this and you just write who are the bride and bridegroom. Magnesium and oxygen. Agreed or not? Right? Reacted with oxygen. Oh, O2 तो हम नहीं लिख सकते. Sorry. O2 means we'll write O only. How do we know whether it is O2 or not? Reacts with oxygen. Rather, I'll write magnesium reacts with oxygen. And here you won't write O2. I'm very sorry. Huh? You'll write it as O only. Why will we write it as O2? O. हमें नहीं पता O2 है कि क्या है. Magnesium and oxygen. No. Not like that. This much reacted with this much. Element to element reaction है. ठीक है? ये O2 है कि O है वो हम बाद में लेंगे. चलें आगे. The first thing is, what is the mass given to you? 0.24 gram, and this is given as how much? 0.16 gram. Agreed? No issues. The next step is find what is the molar mass. Molar mass कितना है मैग्नीशियम का? 24 grams per mole. ऑक्सीजन कितना है? 16 grams per mole. ठीक है? Are we fine? Then you find out. Then third step would be, what is the number of moles? What is the number of moles? Step 1, step 2, step 3. Number of moles, how do you find out? Given mass by molecular mass. So given mass is how much? 0.24. Molecular mass is 24. तो इसके डिवाइड करोगे तो कैसे हो जाएगा? हाँ, 1/100 means 0.01 हो गया. इसका कितना आएगा? 0.01. ठीक है. अब फोर्थ स्टेप आते हैं. फोर्थ स्टेप में हम लोग लिखेंगे simplest ratio. Okay, children, now here be careful. This problem is a very goody problem where you are getting the simplest ratio simply. Otherwise, write the word simplest ratio in whole number. You will not write this ratio in decimal. Are you understanding? Sometimes you may get 1.06, 0.999. तो भी ratio 1:1 ही पकड़ेंगे. Simplest ratio in the whole number. How do you do it? You will divide with the smallest number. ठीक है ना? Suppose you got this as 0.99. This is 1.0001. So how will you do? 0.99 divided by 0.99, which is 1, and 1.0001 divided by 0.99, which will be also 1.00. But your ratio will always be in a whole number. So what is our ratio, beta? 1, 1. Got it? This gives us our fifth step. That is the empirical formula. So in this empirical formula, what do you understand? That this product is formed by reacting 1 mole combines with 1 mole. So magnesium का 1 mole combines with oxygen का 1 mole. और ये हमेशा lowest number में ही रहता है, तो ये और लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. If it was 1:2, we'll write 1:2. So MgO is your empirical formula. Okay. Now, suppose we are supposed to find out the molecular formula, then this question will also have a data for you. The molecular formula of the unknown compound, the molecular mass of unknown compound is 34. They'll tell you that it is 40 grams. How much is it? 40 grams. Now you are supposed to find out the molecular formula. So you first find out what is the empirical mass. Empirical mass is equal to, empirical mass is magnesium 24 into 1 plus 16 into 1, which is also equal to 40 grams. Therefore, N is equal to, I write this as EM and I'm writing this as MR. This is equal to MR by EM, which is equal to 1. Therefore, molecular formula is equal to N times of empirical formula, which is equal to, 1 times of MgO, which is equal to MgO. There is no change. Did you understand this step? They will give you this data. Oh, sorry. In some cases, this is a simple example, so it tallied, it may not tally also. समझ में आया? लिख लीजिए इसको अच्छे से, फिर एक और प्रॉब्लम करेंगे. Simplest ratio when you are doing, always try to be in whole number. समझ में आया ध्रुव? ठीक है, यहां पे नेक्स्ट प्रॉब्लम का डेटा लिखें. Shall we write it? चलो. Our next problem is something like this. A compound contains contains what do you call 47 a compound contains 47% silicon and balance oxygen. A compound contains 47% silicon and balance it contains oxygen. Okay. We are supposed to predict the empirical formula of this compound. Empirical formula we are supposed to predict. So I'm going ahead with this problem and this data only. So what do we do now? We replace it. Okay, चलो यहाँ पे फिर से करते हैं. So I'm rubbing these parts. So what is our data now? 47% silicon and balance oxygen. So how much will we take? This will be assumed now. 100-gram sample will assume. 100-gram sample. In 100-gram sample, how much is silicon? 47 gram. So what should be oxygen? 100 minus 47. 100 minus 50 is 50. 47 means you will have 53 grams of oxygen. Is this clear or not? ठीक है? आओ molar mass निकालो. Oxygen is 16. Carbon is 12. Silicon is how much? देखो तो 28. तो यहाँ पे लिखे 28. This is 28. Then how much is oxygen? 16. Try to find number of moles. Tell me the figure here. Number of moles. 47 divided by 28. 1.68. अगर इसको 1.68 ले रहे हो तो इसको भी 2 decimal places में लो. 16 and 53. Tell me. 3.31. Okay. Now simplest ratio. Divide 1.68 by 1.68. So here it becomes 1. 1.68 divided by 1.68. It gives you 1. And divide 3.31 by 1.68. How much is it? How much is this figure? 1.97. 1. हमें 2 लेना पड़ेगा. Simplest ratio is always in whole number. ये डेटा कितना आया था? 1.97 है ना? 1.97. But हम इसे क्या लेंगे? 2 लेंगे. So what is the empirical formula of the compound? SiO2. Are we fine, bachcha? Anyone who has not understood, Neri, have a look. Any step you don't understand, we are ready to do again, but will not proceed if we have not understood. This 1.97 will become 2, you understood, right? This will always have to be in because it's an experimental data. And otherwise, you cannot predict the formula, right? And what formula did you predict right now? Empirical formula. So let us have a quick revision. What all we learned so far? We learned our basic formula which says that number of moles is equal to given mass by molar mass or molecular mass. And if you are having a hydrated salt, please add the water of hydration contribution also. After that, you also know one formula for empirical and molecular mass by a multiplying factor called n, which is equal to molecular mass divided by empirical. Molecular हमेशा ज़्यादा होगा, empirical छोटा होता है, ठीक है? That's the. Now, what type of problems we can get? We can get problems in which we start with the equation. In that case, we have to find out what is the missing reactant or how much was not burnt or how much was left over. Another type of problem that we get is predicting the formula. In that, experimental data will be given to us, either in the terms of mass or in terms of percentage. If it is given in terms of percentage, we convert it into 100 first and then see what is the respective contribution of each. And if it is given in mass, then it's given in mass. चलें, एक और problem करते हैं. चलिए. Can I go ahead? Chalo. Let's see one more problem. Our next problem is it says 5 gram of hydrated copper 2 sulfate. अब देखो बड़ा interesting चीज है. 5.0 ग्राम ऑफ हाइड्रेटेड, जरा ध्यान से देखें हाँ इस चीज को, हाइड्रेटेड कॉपर 2 सल्फेट. अच्छा, now you can't forget sulfate is what? SO4 always 2 minus, and copper 2 means the oxidation state of copper is +2, therefore the product is Cu +2, which is basically written as CuSO4, right? Have we understood? Hydrated. Now don't just immediately jump to 5H2O, read the complete question. Sometimes they may ask you what is the, but the total mass of this is how much? 5.0 grams of hydrated copper sulfate. They say hydrated copper sulfate crystals are heated. This is hydrated, so I am writing it as say XH2O. I will put it as 5 once I am done with reading the question. अभी मैंने question पूरा पढ़ा नहीं है. Is heated, हमने इसको heat किया. Tell me, if you heat it, what will happen? If you heat it, if you heat a hydrated product is like a wet towel. If you run the iron on the wet towel, what will happen? Water निकल जाएगा. So you will kick out the water. That's what it is written here. Okay. To drive off the water of crystallization. After this, what happens? The water of crystallization is gone out. You have driven it out. And then the balanced solid has a mass which is equal to 3.2 grams. What do you infer from here? Other thing माने water of crystallization. तो जरा बोलो तो कैसा था? You started with 5.0 grams of what? CuSO4 dot XH2O. Agreed? And इसको जब आपने हीट किया तो आपको क्या मिला? CuSO4 जो कि है 3.2 grams और water of crystallization is XH2O. I don't know what is the water of crystallization. How much is present? I don't know. X. इसका वजन कितना आएगा? 5 से 3 घटाएंगे तो 2, 3.2 घटाएंगे तो 1.8, है ना? So 1.8 grams हवा में उड़ गया. 1.8 grams means you can straight away predict what is the moles of this. Water is always 18. This is 1.8. कितना moles है? पीटूंगा पकड़ के. 10 divided by 1.8 is how much? 18 divided by 1.8 is how much? 10. Given is 1.8. Molar is 8. So 1 by 10. 0.1. तो कितना हुआ? 0.1 मोल. कितना मोल आ रहा है? 0.1. ऐसे पकड़ के रखो. आगे कहता है this. Now the ratio of the salt and water in the given कहाँ गया question? This, the remaining this. Now the formula of the crystal. We have to now find out the formula of the crystal. What do we have to find out? The formula of the crystal. So formula of the crystal is nothing great for us. We know that the formula of the crystal should be CuSO4 some XH2O. That is the only thing that is causing us problem. So can we make our chart now? Chart बना ले? आजा. So how will we make our chart? We will make our chart now. These type of problems, you make your chart between CuSO4 and H2O. This is what is the combination happening, right? You need to find out the moles of H2O. So let's go start with our thing. How much is CuSO4 beta? 3.2. How much is H2O? 1.8. Okay, this was given mass, GM. Then molar mass. Copper sulfate is how much? 64. 64 plus 32 plus 16 3 is 64. 64, 32. 64 is how much? 128. 128 plus 32? 160. चेक कर लो 160. मेरे हिसाब से तो 160 होना चाहिए. 160. और ये कितना है? Here you write grams per mole. This is 18 grams per mole. चलो number of moles निकालते हैं. Number of moles 3.2 divided by 160. 1 by 15 means decimal में बोलो 0.0. 0.02. And what is the number of moles here? 0.1. Simplest ratio करो चलो. 0.02 divided by 0.02. This is 1. और इसको क्या करेंगे? 0.1 divided by 0.02, which is equal to 5. So what is your formula? CuSO4.5H2O. You have proved it. समझ में आया? Now we have a set of questions. You have your books with you? You have, right? The red book is there with you all? The PDF red book, bachcha log. Okay, the PDF red book, come down to page number 106. I think it's 106. Come down to 106. 106 will be on left hand side. Just see. Is it 106 in your book? Yes, it's 106, correct. Now start attacking those questions. Yeah, Sasra, you are on correct page. ये इसमें है, देखो questions हैं, इन्हें अटैक करने की कोशिश करो. तो क्या क्या सीखा? You all understood? Now clear how to find out one and the other. Read the question carefully. अस्मिता बेटू समझ में आया तो?
Yes.
Okay. Nidhi ma'am. So take the questions. If you have the book, just see the questions. The first one is number of moles and discuss your answers also.
Sir, 102, the page?
Page is 106.
Oh, yes.
You will see some molecule structure of phosphorus oxide.
Yes, sir. Fine.
उसके बाजू में ही questions है, देखो.
Okay, sir.
Next class onwards ना ध्रुव, chemistry class में textbook ले आओ, because we still with calculations ना, calculations, kinetics, these will need textbook, क्योंकि ये physical chemistry है, तो हमें textbook की जरूरत पड़ेगी, और textbook नहीं है तो कंप्यूटर है, कुछ भी ले आना ताकि आप कर सको. Question 1B. What is the question? How many formula units? How many formula units means how many moles? Formula unit means it's an ionic compound. And what is the compound? Sodium hydroxide. So NaOH is one formula unit. So how many formula units means how many moles? So how many moles you will get first, then how many formula units means multiply the moles with 6.022. एक मिनट क्लियर कर देता हूं आपको. देखो बेटा, एक चीज देखो तो, what is this Sasra? ये क्या है बोलो? Carbon dioxide. नहीं. What do you read it as? One molecule? One molecule? Okay. 1 mole CO2. 1 mole CO2. How many molecules? One mole means so many. Understood? Are we clear? 1 mole of this means how many molecules I'm asking? So many molecules? Are we clear? This is a covalent compound. NaCl. This is one formula unit of NaCl. If I say 5 mole NaCl, that means 5 into 6.02 into 10 to the power 23 formula units of NaCl. Formula unit is same and analogous as molecules. The only thing is this is referred for covalent, this is referred for ionic. एक मॉलिक्यूल CO2, एक मॉलिक्यूल NaCl, एक फॉर्मूला यूनिट NaCl, because NaCl is ionic, copper sulfate ionic, HCl ionic, they're all ionic na. HCl is not ionic, by the way. HCl is covalent. MgSO4 ionic, they're all salt. Aqueous जो भी दिखेगा बेटा वो ionic है. Ionic माने formula unit. That's the way we call it. We do not call it molecule. Molecule is only referred for covalent compounds. So you have to find out how many formula units means पहले mole निकालो, mole से molecule निकालो. So if you want to write mother statement, 1 mole molecule is equal to 1 mole atoms is equal to 1 mole formula unit is equal to 6.02 10 to the power 23. For this it will be molecules, for this it will be atoms, for this it will be formula unit. Same thing. Second part of the B, what does it read? Hydroxide ion. So look at this way. Come on, let's ionize NaOH. This is an ionic compound, so it will undergo 100% ionization and it will ionize at Na plus plus OH minus. Do you read these two? Write down. This is sodium hydroxide. Aqueous gives you sodium ions. These are sodium ions. And this is hydroxide ion. ठीक है ना? Sodium ion, hydroxide, cation, anion. And what is this? This is sodium hydroxide. Hydroxide. इसको कैसे लिखेंगे? Aqueous. इसको भी लिखेंगे aqueous. इसको भी लिखेंगे aqueous. पहले ये समझ में आया कि नहीं? अब आप इसका हिसाब देख लो. कैसा हिसाब है? अगर 1 मोल लेंगे तो 1 मोल cation, 1 मोल anion. You must have got how many moles of this in your part 1 of the calculation? 0. So 0.4 निकालेंगे. So we got 0.4 moles of this. So how many moles of this you should get? 0.4, 0.4. Please understand like this. 1 egg, 1 onion combines to give you 1 omelette. ये मत सोचो 2 कैसे हो गया. एक ऑमलेट में 1 अंडा है, 1 अनियन है. So you got 0.4 omelette. That means 0.4 अंडा and 0.4 onion. अच्छा बच्चा, यही सॉल्ट अगर ऐसा होता जरा देखता हूं. कीर्तन, look at this one. If this was Al2O3 aqueous. Oh, Al2 cannot be O. This is aluminum oxide. Aluminum hydroxide. AlOH3 aqueous. How will this split as? This will split as Al3 plus OH minus 3 times. Now if you would have got 0.4 moles here how many you will get? And here you will get 0.4 into 3, 1.2. Because here the new omelette is 1 egg, 3 chilies. 1 egg, 3 chilies makes 1 omelette. So when 1 omelette, you got how much? 0.4 omelette. So you got 1 egg, 0.4 eggs, and how many chilies? 1.3 times. Be very careful. That's why I always tell you, your knowledge about chemical formulas have to improve. Unless and until your chemical, जैसे आपको एसिड दे देगा, एसिड दे दिया आपको H3PO4, ठीक है ना? इसको स्प्लिट करेंगे तो कैसे आएगा बोलो? 3H plus PO4 3 minus. 1 mole splits to 3 mole and 1 mole. Here the omelette is 1 omelette is equal to 3 eggs, 1 onion. Be very careful. जब तक आपका ये क्लियर हो जाएगा, फिजिकल केमिस्ट्री आपके हाथ में आ जाए. मजा आया? आज के लिए रंगारंग कार्यक्रम इससे ज्यादा नहीं रखेंगे. नहीं तो आपका हो जाएगा ओवरहेड ट्रांसमिशन।